and you definitely don't want a huge pop. And I think you can sort of manage that through how you stagger the lockup periods, et cetera, et cetera. There's ways to manage that so it isn't everyone locked up for 6 months and then it drops. And there's better ways to kind of manage that. But yeah, I think you're ultimately optimizing for the large, long shareholders that are probably going to hold 50% of your stock for an enduring period of time. And the relationship you build with those investors is incredibly important. And they're, from what I understand, pretty anti-direct listing.
And that answer, that very cogent answer is, Harry, why everyone in theory will argue this. And then when you're the guy on point with your life's work on the line, just like Halligan, and you're like, do I want to be an experimental baby on the biggest day of my life? Or do I just want to land this freaking plane? There you go, baby. And
True, yeah.
Well, I think your point on Figma was totally right though, Roy, which is that everyone was like, oh, well, here's the test case for why we need to have a direct listing. And you were like, well, had it been a direct listing, it would not have listed anywhere near the price that it went to. It would have been $3 to $4 higher, maybe at 36 to 40, but it would be ridiculous to assume it would have been a 75 starting price. And I think that was really well articulated. I was listening to Jensen on an earnings call. This is what's so great, Cliff, about doing these shows. I actually have to do some work and really listen to earnings calls again, okay? And he said over the next 5 years, we're going to scale into, with Blackwell and with Rubin, into effectively a $3 to $4 trillion AI infrastructure opportunity. 3 to 4 trillion. Can that level of CapEx be supported by enough AI-driven revenues, guys?
yeah, I mean, look at it. Let's do $4 billion. You want a 20% return on equity. You got to be generating 800 billion of profit a year. That's a lot of profit when, Facebook, all these guys make a couple $100 billion a year, right? So you've got to believe, and you're going to create another 4 Microsofts, another 4 Facebooks to justify that kind of spend. So it feels deeply lofty to me and not grounded in kind of the macro. But on the other hand, it's hard to argue against the guy who, built the most valuable company on the planet. So, you can give him credit for the specifics. I don't see where the macro works, but whatever. If you want to make that bet, Harry, there are NVIDIA puts that I keep my eye on that you're more than welcome to plow into anytime you want.
Tell me when you do, Roy.
The hell I will.
Jason?
All I do know is, I know it's a small percent of the economy, but when you listen to what Cliff's saying now, when you listen to what Mark Benioff said last week, I mean, basically Mark said we're like 0.1% AI penetrated in the Salesforce space, right? So Salesforce is coming up on 50 billion, right? They alone are going to have 200 billion of AI attach to their model. I'm not saying Mark's going to get all of it, but the attach is going to happen. It's just it's so early that it's hard not to see everything easily being 100x bigger than it is today. We just started. It feels like 100x. Now, does 100x get us to that number? I don't know, but I do think that Jensen and Sam Altman have a pretty good sense of it. So I'm not betting against it. We can ask Cliff how deeply AI is penetrated there.
Yeah, we have billions of AI usages in our product per month, and that's accelerating at a clip. So it is just beginning, and the amount of calls and inference we're going to rely on is just going to grow exponentially as these products evolve. But yeah,
it's easy to see 100x growth, right?
But they're all getting distilled, and they're all going to get it run on device a lot more. So there are optimizations that are coming.
Thank
as well.
you. Because take on that, because you'd mentioned the Notion comment of spending 10% of the revenue on on AI, on GPUs and inference and model training, right?